All right, we are live, and I am very excited to introduce you all to today's guest. For the past 20 years, today's guest has coached everyone from everyday people rebuilding their bodies to elite performers pushing their limits. As the former chief fitness officer of Onnit for almost a decade, he designed the Onnit certification systems and taught it to thousands of coaches. He opened the world-class Onnit gym in Austin. He produced and coached Onnit's 6 digital home fitness programs and led the 20,000 plus member Onnit tribe community. But after Onnit's acquisition by Unilever and subsequent transition of Onnit away from fitness and now to only a supplement brand, he's now on to the next chapter of his journey. And he's recently created the Wolfpack Collective that includes a free community, a soon to be launched mobile app, and one-on-one coaching programs. He's also helping high performing men drop 15 to 25 pounds via his 90-day Lead the Pack protocol. Regain your edge, reclaim your clarity. Welcome back to the winner circle, Coach John Wolf.
Oh! Hey man, I didn't want to do that too loud, but yeah, no, thanks for welcoming me back in, Derek. It's a pleasure to be here. You said it's been 5 years since we did this, huh?
Yeah, almost 5 years since we connected on episode 19 of Welcome to the Winner Circle, and both their journeys have changed quite a bit since then. And even prior to that podcast, I was down in Austin every couple of months for 3 years, and you're someone I really respect, admire, and it's great to reconnect. It's on paper it's been 5 years, but it really seems like I just saw you yesterday, just because the impact you left on me as a coach, but most importantly as a human.
Oh man, thanks, bro. That's I think that's the goal for me is relationships that are meaningful. It's always like catching up with an old friend. You never worry about how much time has passed. You just want to genuinely connect and hear what's happened in the time span that like what's going on with you, what's been the challenges, what's been the growth, what's been like I want to hear it all. So and just appreciating the connection. So thanks, man. I'm honored to have been a part of your journey in any meaningful way.
A huge part, and you still will, and you continue to be. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So John, so much has changed since we've last connected on the podcast. On the first episode we recorded, we examined kind of your journey to becoming a coach, the challenges you've had to overcome, addiction being a big one, advice for people going through that, and COVID was just starting, so maybe that's a place where we can start. COVID was just starting, and you were just created that Onnit tribe, which was not at 20,000 people at that point. It was just starting up. So yeah, what has been, and yeah, you were still at Onnit. You were still the chief fitness officer. So yeah, let's just catch those listening in. What have you been up to since that episode 5 years ago?
Yeah, in all fairness, it was like a perfect storm, right? For a lot of us, we had to figure out a lot of stuff. Things changed overnight, March of 2020, right? And so one of the things that we had already kind of set the groundwork for was kind of this digital home fitness program called Onnit 6, a 6-week program, and then we created all of the different variations around the methods that we taught in our education system. And the Onnit tribe kind of existed before then. Just to be fair, it was just like a customer community, but thanks to the leadership within the marketing side of the business to see the opportunity during a time when digital home fitness was the best opportunity for people to and digital communities were the best opportunity for people to invest in themselves wherever you were and plug into something. Hopefully that was meaningful. They started the Onnit 6 challenges, and yeah, because the perfect storm that was there, we saw a lot of growth in that community, and it was like I said, it was a function of that perfect storm, of the the leadership in our marketing departments, understanding of like how to do that because they had done so at other companies, and it was really amazing to see and to be of service to so many people at a time where they were looking for a solution, right? And to present, the way we approach fitness, which was, I think, a lot more holistic than what most people had experienced in the past. It was a transformation program, the challenge, but it was not about like how many pounds you lost, but how you perceived yourself from day one to the end of the end of week 6, and how other people saw you, how you show up. So it was more storytelling. It was more about people sharing their journeys, and that was pretty amazing. We rode that out for several years, and through those different digital home fitness programs. I think we ended up at 7 of them, even though they're called Onnit 6. We had 7, but it was 6 weeks, right? So, and so yeah, that was a big part of from that point forward, a big part of what I did at Onnit, because we weren't teaching seminars anymore. The way that you and I connected was in live education, right? And so, a lot of growth for me there, figuring out how to run a digital community and try to like connect with people through that medium that's not really natural to me. I'm a big hugger, more like let's sit down, break bread, look each other in the eye, and be able to connect that way. So yeah, man, that was a great journey though. I think there was a lot of growth, a lot of learning, also a lot of awareness about what I wasn't good at, you know what I mean? Where I needed to learn to grow.
Mm-hmm. And what were some of those takeaways? Where did you have to learn and grow, and how did you do so?
I'm very intuitive. The way that I operate is usually just off feel, right? If something feels right, if something doesn't feel right, a big part of it's alignment with purpose, right? And so because digital media has never been really a big strength of mine, so like social media gives me anxiety, man, because like I'm really thankful that people care enough to care, to give any credit to anything I say, to have place any value in it. But once you start posting, people interact, and like I feel like it's kind of a contract, right? Like you put stuff out there to have people interact with you, but then I can quickly get overwhelmed with the amount of interaction because whether I act like it or not, I'm inherently an introvert. So it's a really hard thing to balance. And it's still something I'm working on now, as I go off on my own and I'm a solopreneur, consciously choosing to re-engage on a more regular basis. It's really about structure and systems, and also like accountability, not only to that communication, but to yourself, like to being able to manage the relationships you create outside of you, and also acknowledge what you actually need in terms of balance and boundaries. So hey, man, I'm still learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that you undoubtedly learned about was transitions. First, transitioning from these in-person seminars that were so powerful at Onnit, transitioning to having to do them online, and then transitioning from being the chief fitness officer, responsible for all things fitness at this amazing company for 10 years, to the company being sold to Unilever, and transitioning away from fitness and having to transitioning back to where you began your journey, and that's as a solopreneur.
Yeah, well, to be honest, when I started my original company, I was like a trainer at the Gold's Gym, and I did it part-time because I was working in finance. So it was a passion project. I wanted to get reps. I wanted to, I was a martial artist growing up. So, in traditional martial arts, you're a coach before you know it, because as soon as you become a senior belt, you're teaching the junior belts. It's just a function of the hierarchy of a traditional martial arts environment. You learn to coach and teach and grow. Not everybody develops that skill, but usually your sensei, your teachers, your leadership, you naturally ascend if you have some type of capacity to communicate effectively the framework, the teachings. If you obviously are in alignment with the codes of conduct, because I know every dojo has different cultures of their own, even beyond the school of thought of the system of martial arts itself. So I realized, like, oh man, I was a coach when I was 6, to some degree. I just didn't know it. And so soon after I started coaching professionally in any capacity, I built a team. So I had a business partner named Jim Romig. We were both like the crazy trainers at that Gold's Gym, and like, oh, I was swinging clubs and kettlebells, and we were like, man, people call me Tarzan, caveman, and then like, man, as a Hispanic community, you're crazy, Vato. You got to go see the crazy white boy over there. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, that was like immediate, like, creative spark, having a sounding board. We both did very different things. We challenged each other, and then we started programs in the park of Salinas, California, a boot camp program. It was during the economic downturn in 2008. So people were broke, and I just felt like, man, best way to serve people, and when people don't have money, is make it affordable and have them invest in themselves. And so that was that early journey, and then it's come full circle. Like so much of the journey. I look at it and I'm like, well, how amazing! A lot of the things I did, a lot of the choices I made, they didn't make any sense from a purely financial or business sense. Back to this whole intuitive, gut kind of driven purpose and alignment kind of internal compass. But it eventually, all these choices that didn't make sense from a lot of other perspectives made sense when it landed me at this kind of like a fairy tale opportunity to take a leadership role at Onnit, and that presented all new challenges, and all new opportunities for growth. And then now, on the tail end of the dissolution of the relationship with Onnit, and almost a decade of my life's work there. It's like getting divorced. You lose a big part of what your identity was, and you have to figure some stuff out. And so, I've spent a lot of the last couple of years doing that and figuring out what the next evolution of me as a person and me as a coach are. So that's kind of like where I land now. But it's ultimately, the first business was called Wolf Fitness Systems. So if we used to call our members, pack members, we're the Wolf Pack. So it was Wolf Pack 1.0, and everything we did at Onnit, I brought everything that we did from Wolf Pack 1.0 into Onnit, and then we just brought in more and more different perspectives and created a unifying framework that allowed those things to coexist, which was a big challenge and a lot of. So that was Wolfpack 2.0, and now, like you said, coming full circle, Wolfpack 3.0 is me being the most true to myself at this phase. Got a lot more gray, almost 50, just turned 47 10 days ago. You know what I'm saying? So, and you hope older and wiser, maybe. We'll see.
Uh-huh. So let's talk about the period of kind of, I don't know, what's it called? Like, we're talking about seasons before this went on air. So I'd say it's maybe a period of winter, where you're thinking things over, planning for this new chapter, which is a phase that I was also. I think we're always continuously going through, and if we allow ourselves to be in that, I think that's where we could really flourish when we come out of it. After let's kind of discuss on what happened towards the end of Onnit, and then how you stepped away from the limelight. And you're so used to being out there motivating people, and then you needed to take time for yourself. And what did that look like? And how did you give yourself permission to even do that?
Well, I was really lucky to be a stakeholder at the company. So at least financially, I had some freedom that I never had in my life to do that. And so, again, big thanks for that opportunity, not only to be in that role, but to have provided me the space to kind of reflect and heal after, because a big part of everything I've done in my career has been very much like externally focused. I never really slowed down. Man, getting promoted to leading the fitness department and fitness division on it, I never did that. You know what I'm saying? Like in over my head the whole time, and everything was changing. We're doing bigger and bigger things, pivoting left and right all the time, and just always was beyond my capacity. But that's where we grow sometimes. We're just stretched just enough, and thankfully I hopefully more often than I didn't rose to the occasion and was able to be of great service. I had amazing people that were part of the team, so I certainly didn't do it on my own. But it's tough. It's tough to make decisions, and some of those decisions make like turn out really well, and some of them not so much. You either you succeed or you learn, right? Like you're either successful or you learn. But oftentimes when you're successful, you're not learning. You just assume that everything's going to keep going the same way. So lot of humble pie, a lot of bumpy roads, and but the fact of the matter was, I lived life driving my first organization. It was so much growth focus, and then in Onnit, so much growth focus. I was always ahead of my ability to be centered. I was always lean far forward. So committed to that, and I think I needed some time to figure a lot of stuff out after, again, losing a big part of my identity because I brought everything of me into Onnit. And then we were talking about, the year before I left Onnit, about 9 months before I left Onnit, my younger brother passed away. And he was 14 years younger than I, so it was almost like my first son kind of deal. I helped raise him. So just a lot of internal conflict. It was also the dissolution of my intimate relationship with my son's mother. All those things will shake a man's identity. You know what I'm saying? Or any human's identity. But I can only speak to it from the perspective of a man who never thought they would be divorced, never thought that they'd be not the father in the household, never, didn't see the end of that tenure at Onnit, didn't realize how hard that transition would be. And so I spent a good amount of time these last couple of years just trying to it is an evolution of the previous work, but I had to internalize it to a different degree. Rather than just speak to it and support other people going through it, I just had to go through some darker caverns in my heart and soul, my head, and do some really deep work, man.
Yeah, could you kind of get into some of that work? Like, what was the work you did that really helped you, and what were some takeaways you gleaned from that time given to yourself?
It came full circle. There was, with the freedom. This is like one of those things that I think a lot of us I think as humans we always think when I do this, everything's going to be better. When I attain this, when I achieve this, everything's going to be better. It just doesn't really work that way, though. Sometimes what we sacrifice to achieve those things is kind of what I was saying. I was always overcommitted. We're so busy moving forward, we're never really where our feet are, and so when all of a sudden the train stops, you're you don't really. So much of your identity is wrapped up in that, and so you have to figure out how to be where your feet are, and it can be really uncomfortable. And you don't even know because you're in so much momentum. You're always moving forward, right? And so it was really uncomfortable, right? And so a lot of things happened where there was some time where there was a lot less motion, and I think it was important for me in my process. But I think it went too long. I got comfortable with not being in motion, but it also came with new challenges, which is creating. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. And I found myself complacent and having to rebuild identity. And I think this is a big thing. I think every big experience that's challenged me is also, I think, from my perspective, allowed me to have a lot more empathy for the people I coach. So it was the first time in a long time I experienced where I was not, for a significant amount of time, permitted myself to be at rest so long that it was a hard start to get going again. And then a loss of identity, not only from the changes, but also from me not being in action and in alignment with purpose. But I had to figure out what purpose was again. So man, that's a big thing, right? For us to be in alignment, we have to have some clarity around purpose. and then align our actions with that purpose. That's what creates alignment, and that's where the real identity building can occur. And I think that so many of us, as I coach more men, particularly, and I coach anybody, but again, I can only really speak to it from my own experiences. I'm a man, I'm a father, I've been a leader. I know what it feels like in that role. I would be presumptuous and I would sound pretty silly to assume that I'm the one man who knows what it's like to be a woman in those situations, but I can relate as a human. And so, that being said, I do a lot of this type of work, and just being able to go through that process now facilitate that through conversations, curiosity, and then create what I call resilient systems of that person's own design, honoring their sovereignty, honoring their identity, their choices, and then we collaborate to create a system that creates more alignment with what their current understanding of purpose is, and we just build layers of that and keep moving forward. Man, I've been talking a long time. Sorry, Derek.
No, that's great. Like, I'm curious to hear more about this. And then, so from what I understand, is like a key aspect of rebuilding one's identity is finding out one's purpose again. Is that correct?
Yeah, man. It's been really powerful to be. I'm so lucky. I have a lot of friends. I've always been a big student, so like I really love the work of Enlifted and Mark England and his team. The unpacking the power of language, because so many of us we're running old programs and they become part of our story. We don't know how to separate ourselves from them. So a lot of this work has come through the understanding of how they break that down mechanically, because once you understand something that has mechanics, you can alter them, you can turn a lever and things change. And I love the way that they do that, but also had to realize that, like, even to do that, it helps, it creates a platform, but a lot of us we don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just opens up the space for us to continue exploring, and identity and purpose. Man, that's some deep stuff, man. And a lot of times it takes a lot of unpacking to figure some of that stuff out. I would tell people, I went through all the same imposter syndrome, self-doubt, kind of stuff everybody does, and people that have been part of my journey, like yourself, like, what do you mean you did all this stuff? I'm like, well, it doesn't matter, my internal compass was off, but I would say I forgot who the fuck I am, and not just because of any achievements, but like literally kind of at the core. So just going through that process, understanding some of these tools and applying them, and just letting it be a process.
So through that process, what did you find out in the right here now? Who the fuck would you say you are?
Man, so like we could talk about, like, so the whole thing with Onnit. You can also forget, like, what you brought to the table too. It's an amazing platform. The platform itself had a lot of gravitas. It had a lot of gravity, like the brand, the mission, the values. They were the same things I already believed, and I had a small, somewhat prolific as a coach before I went to Onnit. But obviously, it's hard to separate the two when the both of them come together. Which part was you? Which part was them?
Yeah.
And so now you said, I started the Wolfpack Collective online community, and so I'm slowly growing a community again, and started with a small group of people who chose to come be part of this and invested time, energy, love, money into that, and now we're opening it to a free community. And when you're in alignment, like, you're a leader. People will choose to follow because they recognize that alignment, that purpose and action, and when someone's in alignment, it's a very powerful thing. And only through being in action did I realize again, like, I'm honored to be someone a lot of people trust, that people value what I bring to the table, and it provides a lot of responsibility to be of service. But what an amazing thing it is. So I'd say I don't like to say this of myself, but only through the function of people being willing to follow my lead at times, of their own choice, in the way that serves them best. I'm a leader, and I believe that real leaders don't create followers. They create leaders. They create an environment where leaders are nurtured. They were already born, but they're nurtured into the state that they were always meant to be. In our pack, the goal is everybody becomes an alpha. They all could lead their own pack, and that's the goal. I really focus on core concepts. We focus on self leadership, right? I'm not there to lead everybody. I'm there to lead myself and be of service to everybody. And only in that way can I be worthy of any responsibility to lead the community at large. Resilience. So like being able to understand that it's not about just toughing things out, but learning to like honor recovery, a balance of recovery and stress, back to like my whole overcommitted lifestyle for a long time, so that you actually adapt to be better than you were before the last round of stress, back to your cycles, right? Your seasons and cycles. And then sovereignty and autonomy, like everybody chooses their own adventure in my community. I'm not telling them what to do. And I think you experienced that within our education system before. It's always been part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Onnit tribe was a community built on Facebook. What's your community now? Where is it built? And how does it operate? Like, I'm excited to check it out myself, but I'm not familiar with it. So what does this community look like? How do you join? There's an app coming. But yeah, what's this all going to look like? And what does it look like, and what's it going to look like?
Yeah, well, right now so the community portion of it is kind of I took this hiatus, right? And I'm coming back into the light, into the public view. And I felt like, man, pretty amazing. People still care enough that I'm back in the fold to like be engaged, because in this day and age, Instagram and everything, it's a feed, right? If you're not in the feed today, then a couple days pass, it's kind of hard for people to remember who you are, and that's just the reality of our current societal norms. So I was like, man, I want to create this free community, and it's gamified. So that people, if you really need resources and you need access to like coaching, that's my role in the community, and everybody in the community that's there doing the work, so they can all coach each other, right? I can't, as the community gets bigger, I can't be the one person pouring from a cup that's not big enough to make sure everybody's glass is full, right? So essentially, you come in. There's a cultural component, right? Largely inspired by the virtues of the wolf and the wolf pack, right? Not just my name, but like the animal and the lessons, kind of like what it represents, right? And so, and we function as a pack, right? It's a social community, right? There's some rules of how we conduct ourselves, and the responsibility as an individual of how you conduct yourself, and so through that process, I provide education resources around the things that most people need to like make progress. Most people are into fitness because they might sound superficial, but most people want to look better naked, or be pain free. You know what I mean? Like, and you think about that could sound superficial, but really it's not. This only is because we want to assign it. But if it affects how you see yourself, and you can show up more confident and more self-actualized because you look and feel the way you think you should, I'm all for it. I don't really care. I care that you're in better alignment with how you want to see yourself, and then from that belief that you were able to create a better version, however you define that you can be the next better version, right? And so. So as you level up in the community, you gain access to more support including like one-on-one time with me, like where we do some game plan calls or even an hour-long coaching call at level 5. Like it's not that hard to reach, but like and different education resources. So you basically introduce yourself and go through the intro course. You unlock the foundational library, and I'll be building more and more libraries of content, like an intermediate library and an advanced library, and ideally, instead of a traditional education system like you guys went through certs, I feel like the people who step up and are contributing to the greater growth of the community at a certain level, I want to invite those people to be mentees if they want to be coaches, because they've already done the work. By supporting other people, by that virtue being leaders in my community, so empowering them to do so however they see fit, without necessarily any financial investment, just sweat equity within the community. There's no, but we also that's delivered in a platform go high level. They have like school, like it's not a social network, a traditional one, and it's actually not even like school where you have a ton of different communities and there's still a lot of different things competing for your time and attention. It's kind of a single hub of community. And then a fitness app that I'm working on right now, where my programming will be available. So programming, but it's also kind of your dashboard for lifestyle. So like, there's a lot of nutrition apps, but the goal is to have like one single dashboard. You're just having too many apps, too many software. So nutrition's there, content's there, and if you want access to me is to look at your how you're executing those things, then you can also invest in some time where I don't have to go look at what 5 other platforms you want to use. It's all right there. And then one-on-one coaching. So that's more of like a high ticket deal, but there might be some different ways I'm doing some of those things. I don't want to get too crazy.
Yeah, no, this is all really exciting. One thing that comes to mind is it's very different than the way I'm used to interacting with you. Not the people from the Onnit tribe that connected with you online during COVID and when you guys went digital, but like you said, you're a people person, that you're a hugger, and you really left an impact on not only me but so many people who attended those certs. So. I don't really agree with you that people won't remember you. Like, I feel like you left such a genuine, personal, impactful touch on thousands of people that went through those Onnit Academy certifications. That so many people, no doubt, when they find out about this, would be so excited to join up. But how do you build that relationship online versus in person? It's something that, I'm not sure. I don't have that experience with, but I couldn't see myself developing such a strong bond with you without like seeing you in action. How you not only how you lead seminars, but how you go about. In your day-to-day, how you interact with members of the gym, how you interact with Aubrey, with Shane, just seeing you in your natural element, because I feel like that's another way where I learned from you. Is not just through your words, but it was through your actions.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that, like I said, there was a lot of learning that era of shifting largely to digital. And what happened when we started that tribe was we used marketing, good marketing, and a great brand to attract people and some financial incentive to attract people to participate in something that they didn't know what they were going to get, right? And with Shane, who's like, he's like the angel on my shoulder, you know what I'm saying, like or my conscience. He's such a wonderful person to have been co-facilitating these people's growth and experience within that platform. But what happened was when people started interacting digitally, because I think there's been a lot more focus on online communities now. So I think other people are doing amazing jobs. Some of them I'm sure are doing things that I'm not even aware of. But it was where I got to see people built relationships on these platforms And then when they were in physical presence of each other, that it was just the resonance on a soul level was already established, and it was just reinforced with that initial interaction and every interaction thereafter. So it really opened my eyes to how powerful, like we chose to be in the same space. We both found the same space. We both resonate with the belief systems and culture of that space. And now when we see each other, we're already family. We're already, kinfolk because of those choices, not because association to a brand or association, but because we both have the same belief systems. We're both overcoming similar challenges. We both were there for each other in some meaningful way, even if you never saw each other in person. So the goal for me is not to be purely digital. I'd love to build a big enough community where I could go regionally support members of my community because there's some relative density in those areas. And then instead of having everybody come to, Austin's pretty awesome to everybody come to when we were there. I don't have a gym. I don't have, this is my house. This is where I run my business. I have 2 kids. One's local, one's in California. I want the most flexibility and freedom to be available to them how I need to as I grow this business. But also, I'll go to different places as there's growth in the community and try to have those meaningful interactions, and that's the goal. I don't want it to be one without the other. I just think that I can only do what I can do as a solopreneur, and digital first it offers me the type of leverage I can execute with, and then hopefully fulfill the promise of real genuine connection that I know our relationship was built on.
It's interesting. It's interesting how everything is cyclical because I didn't even I kind of forgot this a little bit, but the thing that brought me to Onnit in the first place was actually online. It was Aubrey's Go For Your Win community, the very first one he created, and I was a part of that. And I was doing small group coaching with Aubrey, and it was a really small thing. And then when we did the graduation ceremony, everyone came down to Onnit for 3 days, and we did, and that's where everyone that connected online and were learning the same curriculum met in person, and everyone were so aligned. And then I think that really drew me to Onnit, and then I went back for certification, and then and even the certifications, it's attracting people that agree by a certain philosophy. So then when we met, everyone's on the same page, and it led to really, really soul to soul connection. So yeah, it's interesting about the cyclical. I guess it did start for me too digitally. So I'm excited to go back there and check out your new community. And
yeah,
be
man.
Part of it.
Well, I do. So one thing, when we had a Facebook group, we did these lives, but it was one too many. It was maybe Shane and I were talking, and then we had to respond to people typing in stuff. And I was that was just a restriction of that platform. But now I do Zooms, and maybe 20, 30 people might be on the Zoom, but there's a lot more interaction, and so I'm learning to do better at making sure there's more voices that are being heard in our community. Actually, so at level 2, I made all these bashes. So it's a gamified thing. So every level is named. When you're level 1, you're basically you're a cub, right? And the badge says, well, every alpha was once a cub, cub learner. And then at level 2, you've had a couple interactions. Basically the levels are based on social interaction in the community. Level 2, you're an emerging howl. And so it's basically where you first let your voice be heard. And a big part of this community is I'm going to respond to what you guys need in the community. So as we communicate, your voice is what prompts me to take different actions, right? What you guys need as a community, what you say, is a really big goal that, you brought in my community. You're seen and you're heard. You not only that you are, but you are because it's designed for that purpose. So yeah, man, I'd love to see you there. I love your feedback. I may have some things in the work to rekindle, coaching, education, mentorship stuff, but I got to work on I have a lot on the plate right now. I don't want to overcommit, but the goal is to re-engage at least in communication, learn also from people who chose to invest in previous education opportunities, whether they want to be part of this community or just have a dialogue. Like I want to know how all you guys are doing, and like what the challenges of your current businesses and life are, and just create community, even if it's, ideally everybody will end up in that community because it's easier to hold space for everybody in one place. But I know that, like, other professionals, they might need a different container. So
Yeah.
working on a lot.
Yeah, that's at wolfpackcollective.com. I just want to talk more about the wolf. I'm Métis on my mom's side. She's some indigenous. So I'm Métis, indigenous, and I've been doing a lot of sweat lodge ceremonies over the last decade. I think you may know this, but maybe not. My indigenous name is Red Wolf, and I'm a part of the Wolf Clan. And the value of the wolf in the indigenous culture is humility. Where does humility play into your Wolfpack collective and just in your journey?
Oh man, that's a huge part of it. Like, I think, like, the biggest challenge I see, and what I've tried to avoid, fitness is a weird space. Spirituality is a weird space for personal development. Like, humans were all very fallible. You know what I'm saying? And what happens a lot of times is when people value you enough, like, you get confused for a different reason than I said before, who you are. Like, you forget you're human. Like, you're super fallible, and you put on a show at the expense of being okay failing in front of everybody. And that's the antithesis of humility, because your identity is tied up in something you're not. Like when I was young, and I've seen a lot of people, this is this big thing about parenting. You don't praise their intelligence, you praise their effort, that they're honoring the process of growth. Because I had that experience too, like, you're so smart, but once you get to a certain point where you don't have the capacity to make it look easy, your identity, your ego is like broken, and then people, that's when to hold on to this identity that you value so much, people will lie, cheat, steal, kill. You know what I'm saying? To not experience the ego death. Maybe maybe not all those things, but like it gets a lot of pressure, and people will bend to too great a degree. In my community, man, I'm always talking about my failures, not only in the past but in the present. And I ask for feedback, because I don't know if I'm misstepping, if I'm not. The whole point of a lot of what I'm doing is to be of service. I need feedback. I need honesty, and I'm willing to admit the things I do that aren't, like, I'm generally acting in pretty great alignment. I know who I am, but who I am is someone who's really comfortable failing forward publicly. So
Yeah.
and so it, being honest about that is a big part of how I choose to lead, because then I don't have the pressure to be something I'm not. And I think that permits other people to be honest and not feel the fear of judgment. I don't really hold space for shame and guilt in our community.
Yeah. What's a failure from the past 5 years that you've experienced and that you've learned from and that you want to share?
Man, shoot, how many? I don't know. Apathy. I feel like apathy is like, people will say like anger, or like even in anger, it can be so destructive. But usually there's an application of passion. You know what I'm saying? But apathy is the absence of care, and I found myself in states where I think that's the most dangerous state as a human, because what we do is we as humans, with this whole free will thing, is we create meaning, we seek meaning, but like, we assign meaning to things. We say what is meaningful, we just don't always claim that power, right? Or we don't consciously do so. We might have taken on somebody's framework and just assume that's reality and not learned or never empowered ourselves to like assign meaning to what we value. And that's back to that whole process of rebuilding identity and alignment, purpose, right? So, but I found myself in that state, and I hadn't been in that state since I was strung out on meth and 130 pounds. And so just to be there again, it was a really scary thing. But it came through, like I have two children, two different mothers. Both of those relationships have come to a close, and at least at that time, not in a healthy way. Like whether I made the same mistakes or not, the reality is I'm the common denominator, and I have a lot of work to do. And so now I'm working hard to be physically, mentally, and emotionally present father in the capacity of somebody who shares time. And I'm really thankful that my children really love spending time with me and really love spending time with each other. I'm so thankful because I was a product of that. Not I think we all grow up and think I'll never X, I'll never Y, I'll never Z. But then we become a lot more humble when sometimes we find ourselves in a situation that we were so sure we would never be in. So, having my daughter live in California and me live in Texas, that's a really tough thing for me to accept on a variety of different levels. Just not being successful at being able to hold everything together. And then those are things that I'm very, very open about and hopefully very honest about too, so, we're all learning and growing.
Uh-huh. And sometimes we have to learn the same lesson twice, which is what happened to you here. What have you learned about just that sometimes we're going to have to go through things more than once? Why is that?
I think it's a matter of perspective, right? Like, I think most of us have to learn more than twice, unfortunately. Yeah. You go through something and with your current level of understanding of yourself and of how everything works, you create a hypothesis, right? Oh, that was because of this. And depending upon how self-aware you are, your part in it, and then how your choices of who, how, and what you align with externally culminate into that outcome, you make some presumptions and you might try to write your course, but you likely don't see enough of the whole picture to really get to the root problems. And so that's definitely been the thing. I addressed a layer, I addressed a deeper layer, and I hope that I've become more self-aware and more sensitive, and I take personal responsibility for my role in the choices and actions I've taken to result in these outcomes I didn't want, and hopefully I'll be able to be better as a result, but I don't expect to have it all figured out even at this point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How do you dig at those layers? How did you do so?
I'm just really introspective by nature. I'm really curious and inquisitive. When I'm coaching, it's really easy not to be judgmental. But when you're looking at yourself, it's really easy to judge. And so what we see of ourselves is not what other people see in us, right? You and so many other people are so kind in the way you see me, but it's not the way I see myself. And so it's coming to terms with both of them are true, and even sometimes when other people see things negative in you, there's some element of truth in it too. It just might not be the defining qualities of you. You have to be able to there was a good talk at a mastermind I was at, speaker out in Encinitas, California, Hippieville. He said, you have, this has always been, it really hit me because this is the way I look at a lot of things. You got a belief system built around a hypothesis, right? And then a different school of thought presents the antithesis of that hypothesis. There's two opposing. Yeah. Now, where you really come to a greater understanding of how things truly work is when you can change your perspective. You can see that those things are actually in a relationship with each other, right? They're not opposing. They're two sides of the same coin. So the goal is to be able to like remove yourself of the attachment of one being ultimately right or the other. They're both probably right in different contexts, in different situations. But if you can remove yourself of needing to be attached or define one is right, you can start seeing like, oh, if, when, then, that might be better. If, when, then, that might be better. So gaining that perspective, you can create the synthesis of those two perspectives, right? So hypothesis, antithesis, synthesis. It comes with a little bit of detachment, a lot of processing, and wow, that's a tough thing to do when you're in the mix, but and you're tied up in your own identity. But that, because I've done that so much with fitness, like a lot of the things I've brought together into the systems we teach, they don't get along outside of our system. They're usually fighting things that are fighting, with each other. And so ultimately, I have that same responsibility to look at myself in that same way. Like I have to come to terms with this part of me might be good in a certain context, but also there's a downside to it if it's misapplied, and same thing on the other side, and just be able to like try to have a different perspective. They say you can't read the label from inside the bottle. It's hard to see yourself. So.
Why is that? Like, cause like I see you say like how I and other people see you, and like I see you for your faults as well, but I don't dwell on your faults. I have compassion for that, and I feel like that's harder for us to do ourselves. Because I don't think you're a perfect person,
No.
but I see you for your faults. I have compassion for those faults. I forgive you for those faults, and I accept you for who you are. And I see the intention behind your actions, and that you're trying to do your best, and that's undeniable. And I see the good, the positives. Whereas often when we look at ourselves, we often see like that one bad thing we did versus like the 100 good things. And I think it's easier to see those 100 good things about another person and just forgive and have compassion for that one bad thing. But when we flip it on ourselves, I think it's kind of the opposite.
Because the inverse is true, right? This is I love this book called Untethered Soul. I don't know, you ever give it a read?
Yeah, Michael Singer.
Yeah, bro, it's amazing because a lot of it is just like this repeated question, the layers of exploration of who are you. That's the one question that you're continuing to unfold and peel back layers of. Like are you Derek Payne? Are you where you grew up? Are you
Hell
no, you're more than that. You're all those things and so much more. Those are just they're traits or things that about where you were born or where like they're not irrelevant, but they're not who or what you are. And so it's so interesting because the other part of us that we have a hard time accepting isn't us, is the voice in our head, and that's a big part of that. The voice in your head isn't you. That's just the bad roommate that lives with you that is always saying something negative. And so, that's... I read that book every couple of years. As a matter of fact, in the community, just the other day we were talking about it, and I was like, oh, I'm overdue. We should do a book club because the lessons there are the things that... I think we as humans, we have really bad memories. What I mean by that is, we do need to learn the same lessons over and over and over again, and we habituate taking things for granted that we swore we would never take for granted again the last time, right? So we talked earlier about cycles of death, and you lose a loved one, and you're like, I'll never take for granted my loved ones again, and then fast forward, you will, and we need to be reminded, we need to be conscious in that process. So, who's not guilty, man? I'm guilty.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into that. I think that's a good topic. We can, as we near the closing of this conversation, is the topic of death. And what did you learn from that unexpected death of your brother 3 years ago? He died in a motorcycle accident, totally unexpected. So what did you learn from that, and how did you apply it to your life today and your understanding of this life that we are blessed. We are so blessed to live, and we are so blessed to be able to unravel that question, who am I? And delete all the falsities that is not us, those thoughts in our head, the things that we've been told we are, that our men are supposed to be, or success is, and we're deleting it. We get to delete it to truly take a glimmer at the nectar of what it is to be, I don't know, alive.
Man, the first time I experienced, so you remember, I don't know if we talked about this, but obviously on the first podcast we talked about my problem with addiction. And I think I did mention I was a 130-pound meth addict.
Yeah.
Before I found fitness as a way to rebuild myself from the physical realm to indirectly influence the rebuilding of the mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And so that was after the death of my grandmother, my grandfather, and then my uncle subsequently committed suicide. And so it was like boom, boom, boom. It shook the foundation of what I believed was how the universe worked, right? And so it broke my faith in everything that I believed. And then this time, when you again, like, I wasn't his father, but in many ways I fulfilled that role in his life. You're not supposed to bury your child. I just remember I was getting ready to fly out, and then my mom called me. And the scream I made. You ever watch The Princess Bride? I don't know if you ever seen that movie. They put the guy on the rack, and then it's like as he's dying, the sound and it echoed everywhere. It was just like I could hear it in my own ears. It was just like it was something otherworldly almost. And so, and I think that the key is this is like back to I think we were talking about before this. We hit record. Is like it can seem so unfair, but life isn't about fairness, and life's about the choice. And I told you that the next day after he passed away, I went to where he passed, and I sat there, and I had a really hard time internalizing the fact that the sun was shining, that it was a beautiful day in a beautiful place, and that life kept going on, and that it took a while to see the beauty of a sunrise or the sun shine, but we have that choice to make, and then honoring him. Like me quitting on life doesn't honor him, doesn't honor his memory, doesn't honor the responsibility to do better and to continue learning and growing as fully as possible. So out of those tragedies is like a lot of rebirth. I think a lot of us, we get tired of trying to recreate ourselves, but the process never stops. Like it's not going to be the last time you go through this process, right? So it's a tough thing to internalize, but that's the thing. It's not the first time I learned it, but it felt so different, right? It felt so different. Every time has felt so different when you're shaken to your core at that level. And to be honest, in a lot of ways. So I never had a tattoo. I got some cupping, and so like this. You can't really see, but there's got the sunshine, the sun rays. My brother's name was Raymond Reyes, so he went by Ray, R-A-Y-R-E-Y. So R-E-Y, sun. This tree, my son's name is Bodhi. You have this little three wolf pack. So myself in the forefront, the kids, you see them, but they're like, you leave them alone. You don't have to worry about it. You worry about me, right? So all the elements represent something. So like I'm there to protect. Like that, you don't access them unless I grant access. The rocks are earth or grounding, stability. That's my role, provide. The stream represents the feminine energy of my daughter. My son's name is Bodhi. The Bodhi tree is where Buddha sat under the tree and found spiritual enlightenment. So the tree represents him, and the sun shining down on our whole pack is the spirit of my brother looking down on us as a reminder to see the beauty of every day we continue to get to live and share in each other's energy, presence, and experience, even on the hard days. I won't say they're bad days, you know.
That's beautiful that you have that reminder on your arm. But the reminders are there everywhere, and like you said, like in the sun that you saw, in the it's all in all the things. It's in the plants. It's in the other people we meet on our journey. But we have to be open, and we have to choose to see, to remember. Um, I don't know how do we remember to choose to make those choices, to make the good choices.
You know, I think I mentioned like my buddy Mark England. I think one of the things that I realize is there have to be a willingness to embrace that is painful to exist at times, and it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just so he said that, trauma is really interesting. It's like spicy food. Like if you eat something that's too spicy for you, it burns on the way in. But to process it and to let it go, it's going to burn on the way out. And most of the time, what we do is back to the untethered soul. Like we have a thorn stuck on a splinter. Instead of pull out the splinter, you're like, no, you protect it, and it just gets more armor, more. It becomes part of your identity. Like the willingness to experience pain, to let go, and to and the faith and the resilience of the human spirit, and that you can and should like enjoy life, like to grant yourself that freedom. So it's a lot, dude. Like who can do that on their own? Like the reality is, if I was a single man without my children, I don't know if I'd have the resolve or strength to bounce back the same way. But I have a purpose beyond myself, and I've built this community. I answer to them. I hold myself accountable in the role I get to play by their choosing to be part of my community. I'm accountable to them. Like when you saw me, like you said, in person, interact with the people who I work for and who work for me. Yeah, I might answer to Aubrey, but I work for everybody who, like, I answer to the people who answer to me. Like I'm gonna fight for them, all the way to the front desk person. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
or the members at the gym. I fight for them. Those are the people that, like I'm in the middle. It's a really weird situation to navigate when you're not at the top and making all the choices. But also, it's a balancing act.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and like you said it right. Like, we can't do this alone, and that's the beauty of community, and that's the beauty of supporting one another. Because we can't do this alone at all. It's a real strength to be able to reach out and ask for help, and also not only to ask for help, but also to allow yourself to receive that help.
I'm working on that. Still working on that. That's why, again, if I didn't have the community there and have to show up, and then it'd be a function of my choice to be vulnerable and open about my failures and challenges, then I wouldn't be the type of person to reach out so openly either. So, but you're right. And this is you said like your experience as you reflect, go for your win. You chose to be part of something that you aligned with by choice, by purpose, by belief. And so that's the key here. Like, I guess that's the one thing I didn't say earlier about digital community. So many of us, we have meaningful relationships with people we truly love, but they don't understand where we are in life, or we don't necessarily have to align with all of our beliefs. And there's a pain point there. You say, if you're a business owner, people who don't own businesses, they do not understand what you go through. If you're a parent and your friends don't have any children, they can't comprehend what that means. And so when we choose, it's like chosen family, kind of concept. We choose to commune with people in alignment with our beliefs and purpose. Then then we can get the support we personally need rather than assume other people we love can provide us that support. And sometimes you can't find that where your feet are. You have to,
Yeah.
like in the past, I think you had like coin collectors groups that would be like, you know what I'm saying? Things like they before you even had the internet, they would like, pen pals type of things that you'd find common interest, and then you'd interact with those people by choice, and whether it was deep or it was just based around that common interest, you could really find a lot of alignment and purpose or meaning in those relationships. So I think all this digital stuff is a two-edged sword, but the goal is like, hey, I'll say it right now, my community is not for everybody. It's a free community. The culture, the code of conduct are communicated. You either agree to it or leave. It's a free community. I don't owe you anything to kick you out. If you don't respect each other, like it's built on acceptance, right? And mutual respect. So like if you expect acceptance but you don't give any respect, it's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like so that's one of the benefits of the free community is like, I'm not for everybody, and you probably and not everybody's for me, and not everybody's for my community. But if you are, we're going to do some amazing things,
Yeah, I can't wait to check it out. For people interested, they can check it out at wolfpackcollective.com. I just have a couple last questions. The first is a question I ask most of my guests, and I didn't have a chance to ask this to you last time. But that's your advice for someone stuck at the crossroads of should and must. And so the crossroad of should and must. The shoulds are you should play it safe, for example. You should stay in finance. You should stay at that 9 to 5 job. The must is I want to become a coach, or I want to go travel, or I want to start my own business. It's the path which includes many risks, and it includes a death. It includes the death of who you thought you were and who you told you were to become who you can be and who is already in you inside, screaming to get out. What advice would you have to someone stuck at that crossroads of should and must, at the edge of the cliff, but unable to jump into that unknown because of the programming they've heard from their education, their parents, their culture, media? What advice would you have for that hero at that path?
Man, this is the big question. It's almost like Michelangelo being asked, how did he create the statue of David, right? And the reality is that there's only one way to become what you really are, and it's to remove everything that you're not. You got to stop shitting on yourself. Sounds like you stop shitting on yourself, because that's actually what you're doing, right? You're shitting on your dreams every time you should yourself, or you allow other people to tell you that playing it safe is more important than manifesting the most fully actualized version of you. To be acquiescent to the pressures of being what society expects of you. Like I said, you can be part of my community, you can be a lot of things. But you have to temper what you are and how you interact with somebody. You have to demonstrate a level of care of others as you are truly manifesting your fullest nature. If you can't balance those two things, then it's going to. I'm not going to have a high level tolerance for it, because that's what I hold the space for. But outside of that, you have complete lateral freedom. I say some wild stuff. I'm trying to be pretty PC in this conversation, but in my community, I say some wild stuff because, that's me, right? And I check in with people, make sure I'm not offending anybody. But for the most part, I want us all to feel free to be honest with ourselves and with each other about who we are, and with that comes the acceptance. It comes with the inevitable reality that's going to be polarizing to some people, and it has to be okay. It has to be okay to allow things you value to no longer be part of you and your experience. if it's not in alignment with what you're becoming, right? Like if you're going to go somewhere and I'm going that way and you're pulling this way, no matter how much that's where I should be, or where I must be, where I must go to be me. Whatever progress I make is not gonna get me very far, because we're pulling in totally opposite directions. And the reality, this is the part that comes real hard. I should have worn my Wolfpack shirt. I got my brand shirt is a wolf head in the middle, and there's 6 wolves. The wolf head in the middle is forward focused, calm eyes, and the 6 wolves are all fiercely like protecting in towards the center. It's also not only about our relationships that are external, but our relationships with different aspects of ourselves. If parts of us are pulling in a bunch of different directions, even though we say we want to go that way, we have to fully realize who we are, let go of that, or align, even better, align those different aspects of ourselves truly with the purpose of becoming who we really are, right? So that's if you get all of the wolves pulling in the same direction, it's like sled dogs, man. You go far, you go fast, but they all have to pull in the same direction, different parts of ourselves.
And what if for someone listening that must is not even known, that purpose is not even clear? Where do you go then? Where do you start then?
That's back to something I said earlier. You cannot discount something that seems superficial if it's the first step in choosing to be in greater alignment with how you hope to see yourself. You see what I'm saying? Like if losing 10 pounds is the platform by which you gain trust in yourself to evolve to the next level, to take the next challenge, to level up, then fuck yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
In that process, you may find that what you thought you valued so much isn't something you value so much anymore, and that's great, because the next question comes, what is it you value now? But we have to be in the process. And so I'd never discount someone's goals or values based on my beliefs of what serves them best, because they need to go through that process one step at a time, which is exactly what I said I needed to do during this time of hiatus. I went down to the bare bones and had to rebuild from the ground up again.
Yep. One of the last questions I asked you on episode 19, I'm going to close it with this, and that was, through all the highs and lows that has been your hero's journey, what has been the greatest life lesson you've learned on your path thus far? And you said you couldn't name one, but what you did know is you knew that the universe is in your corner, and you do your best to live in the moment every day and take it on. Where you stand on that?
Ultimately, I have this quote here, right? And it's a reminder. It's not just like, you ever watch Coach Carter?
With Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah. So it was the first time I was exposed to this quote by Marianne Williamson. And it's a big reminder, so that even in this more recent era of growth, I was afraid to live in my light, to assume the mantle of the role that I was arguably meant to, by definition, not by my own choosing, but by people seeing me or wanting me to be of service in that way, and I was shy away from it. But it's the quote, our deepest fear. Right? Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So the basis of my ongoing work on myself is to live in alignment with that, because only in doing so am I capable or worthy of facilitating that for other people. And I forgot that. That's what I said earlier. I forgot who the fuck I was. I'm just somebody who's, if whatever light I have, I want to light the next person's candle. You know what I'm saying? Like, it only takes one candle to light everybody's, right? And not to say there already isn't, but like, if that's the case, I just want to amplify it. I want to be part of the process. I be of service to other people to do that better. And I was playing it small. I was shrinking. You know, I was shying away from my ability to do it, and also by doing so, not serving myself or anybody else. So that's it's scary, dude. Like, just gotta do it.
And you are, and don't underestimate the power of those candles you lit, because the one you lit in me over 8 years ago is still burning bright, and it's burning bright in the best way. It's burning bright without the need of you. It's burning bright on its own, and I think that's what you've set yourself out to do, and it's happening. And it's not just with me; it's with so many you've touched, and it's going to continue to do so with the Wolfpack Collective and the light that you lit in me. I've shared that light with so many others, and those lights are all self-sustaining out there. And yeah, who knows how far? I have a feeling it's beyond our knowing.
And it's okay. I don't need to own it. I don't need to witness it. I just need to believe that the ripples in the pond extend, and that the world we live in some small way is better by all of our mutual contributions to the betterment of humanity, the shift in the energies around us. So I love that, and I'll live and die in a fulfilled state as a result.
Yeah, fuck yeah, right? Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, bro.
um, so I'm excited to join the Wolfpack Collective as a cub, to do that book club. I really hope that happens. The Untethered Soul. I love that book, and it's been a while since I revisited. People can also find you on leadthepack.fit, where you do coaching for men, and on Instagram at Coach John Wolf. Any last words other than that?
Yeah, no. Basically, if you just type Coach John Wolf into any social channel, that's probably where I'm at. But Instagram is probably the easiest place to reach me, or my website, which is also CoachJohnWolf.com. So that's kind of like where the hub of everything else is. But no matter what, where you choose to engage, if anything we talked about today resonates, let's connect.
Right on. Thanks, John. To close every conversations, we bring it in, digital fist bump, stepping in, boom, the winner circle. Yeah, thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure, an honor, and I can't wait to continue this relationship and see how it evolves and grows.
Long overdue connection, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.